So this novel has a very concrete origin, which is that I intended it to be a contemporary retelling of the Isaac Bashevis Singer novel Enemies: A Love Story, which Singer published in the 60s in Yiddish, 1972 in English. And it's about a man named Herman Broder, which is why Sylvie is named Sylvie Broder, who survives the Holocaust. He believes himself to have been widowed by Hitler. He marries the Polish Christian woman who hid him. They come to New York. He quickly discovers that he does not, in fact, want to be married to her. Starts an affair with an Orthodox woman named Masha. And then his first wife pops back up in New York, having survived. And he tries to carry on marriages essentially with all three. And it starts out really funny, ends up really dark and sad. There's a lot of philosophizing. Herman has this idea that he's lived beyond the end of history because he's survived the worst imaginable thing. Apologies for my dog in the background. And he constructs this philosophy of the end of history that he uses to justify his actions. And I was so struck by this book. It's so intellectually interesting and juicy and gossipy, full of some pretty odd sex and odd romance. It felt to me extremely modern, and I just immediately wanted to rewrite it. And I initially thought that I was going to do almost a beat for beat retelling of the book. That did not work out. But the ideas in the end of romance, many of them sprang from Enemies: A Love Story. So Sylvie Broder, you can call her a heroine, you can call her an anti-heroine. I think that that is up to the reader. Grows up, she's a nice Jewish girl from the Boston suburbs. She gets married to her high school boyfriend very young. He's sort of the community's golden boy. Everybody thinks he's perfect. Within their marriage, he is anything but. And Sylvie, when she's in her early 20s, runs away from him, does not divorce him, just vanishes, and embarks on restarts her adulthood, let's say, as a PhD candidate in philosophy, and develops this idiosyncratic theory of the end of romance. She believes that straight women can only be free and only find happiness if they, or we, keep everything about their love lives completely private, such that the outside world, the patriarchal world, can't impact them. And she finds a man named Robbie who is willing to live out this philosophy with her. And that goes along not without challenges because Sylvie's philosophy is extreme and Sylvie is herself an extremist. She's a dogmatic character. But she and Robbie are really giving it a go until she meets a guy named AB. And I won't say too much about AB to avoid major spoilers, but he creates very large challenges for Sylvie. My writing is very driven by character. I really love developing characters. Oh, sorry, God. Here, let me
This
silence
is
my
held, so
phone notification.
this is all held though. All the connectivity has held for that entire section. So we're in good karma in that respect. So if you want to just pick up all my characters, I can cleanly cut from there.
Yeah, this is also great for me to know that the internet is better in my husband's office than in mine. Um, I, I'll just start from the beginning. I love writing character. For me, as a novelist, one of the most enjoyable things is to come up with a character, hang out with that person in my own imagination, and see that character hanging out with my other characters. There's not a better way to say it than to say I become very, very close to my characters. So Sylvie is certainly not me. She deeply, deeply is not me. However, I love her very much. And I love Abby very much too, and Robbie differently. Um, but Sylvie has so much fun with Abby that for me, writing the parts of the novel when they're enjoying each other's company in any way, um, that was just so enjoyable. And actually, one of the hardest parts of the edit process for me was cutting out a lot of scenes where Sylvie and Abby are just hanging out because they enjoy each other's company so much. I was just having much too much fun writing them, and it was messing up. the balance of the book. I was slowing down the plot because I wanted to spend time with those two characters together. I think of myself very strongly as an American Jewish writer. Philip Roth, who's my biggest influence, the person I most would like to grow up to be, used to say that he was an American writer who happened to write about Jews. And sometimes I feel that way also. I certainly see myself very much as an American writer, but American Jewish identity as one thing, not as two things, is extremely important to me as a writer, extremely interesting to me as a writer. And that has become, it's always been true, but I think it's become even truer in the last couple years because there's been so much rhetoric emerging from the war in Gaza that has, President Biden did this, Netanyahu did this, acted as if people have made the claim that Jews need Israel to keep them safe, which I think is ridiculous. I think that to say that my country that I live in, where I was born, where I am a citizen, is not the country that is accountable for keeping me safe. And by the same token, to say that I'm not accountable to that country, it's wild, it's illogical. So I have come to feel even more strongly that it's important to write about Jews in the United States, about Jewish history in the United States, which is a big current in the book. AB is a historian of Jews in the South. And the reason that I did that, partly, that's part of my family history, which is something I've written about elsewhere. I've written, essays about it. But it became very important to me that the book reflect the deep sense of Americanness that I feel. And I want to say the exclusive sense of Americanness that I feel. Sylvie comes from an immigrant background. Her mom is a British Jew, and her father is the child of Holocaust survivors. So nobody in her family has been in the country all that long. And yet she is an American. This is an American story. There's a lot of US politics. She lives in Charlottesville for most of the book. So Unite the Right comes up. There's a lot of Me Too, a lot of Trump. And this is something I feel strongly about. I feel very strongly about representing American Jewish life in all of my work, not just in this novel, in its multiplicity, in its strangeness. I write a lot about assimilation. There's a big current of that in the novel, but it's just very important to me that my work be about Jews in the United States really engaging with and being part of American politics, American history, without looking elsewhere, because don't think we I don't think that we have to. I frankly don't really think we should. And I certainly don't want any politician telling me I'm supposed to. So, Hillary Kelly, the critic, interviewed me at my book launch a couple nights ago. She's so smart, and I'm going to steal her phrase. She described the novel not so much as a love triangle, but as a squashed love polygon, which I love because it does. It's not a love triangle. It's not a love triangle because of the presence of the menacing first husband, Jonah, who never goes away. I always want to call him her first husband, but as I said, she never divorces him, so he's in fact just her husband. So I always knew I was going to be concentrating on these three men to varying degrees throughout the book. I did know from the beginning who I believed she would end up with. That said, without explaining the ending, I will say that if you are the sort of reader who wants to project 10 years into Sylvie's future, I don't think that you know who she's not with, but I don't know if you know who she's with necessarily.